Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something powerful. There will be people in your life who act like you don't exist, who pretend not to hear you, not to see you, not to value you. And in those moments, you face a choice. Will you shrink, beg, and chase after their attention, or will you rise, stand tall, and show the world that your worth has never depended on who chooses to notice you? When someone ignores you, when they choose not to see you, not to acknowledge your presence, it can sting deeply. You start questioning yourself, wondering if you are enough, if you did something wrong, if you somehow deserve this silence. That's the trap. That's the emotional hook pulling you into a cycle where your worth is dependent on someone else's recognition. But let me tell you this, your value has never been tied to who pays attention to you. Your value has never been tied to someone's validation. It is tied only to you. To your heart, to your actions, to the life you are choosing to build. When you let yourself obsess over those who ignore you, you are giving away your energy to people who have already shown you they don't care to invest theirs in you. That is not power. That is not self-respect. That is not alignment with the person you are becoming. If someone is blind to your presence, let them stay blind. If someone is deaf to your voice, stop shouting for their attention. There is a freedom that comes when you release the need for them to notice you. When you finally stop waiting for their approval. Ignoring those who ignore you is not about arrogance. It's about dignity. It's about standing tall in who you are without begging anyone else to see it. Think about this: you are a human being with dreams, talents, light, and love. To shrink yourself, to dim that light, just so someone might glance your way, that is betrayal of yourself. Every second you spend trying to win the attention of someone committed to overlooking you is a second stolen from your growth. Life is too short to be lived on mute, waiting for people to hit play on your worth. If they cannot recognize your presence, do not fight for a seat at their table. Build your own. And when you build it, fill it with people who clap when you walk in, people who cheer for your wins, people who remind you of your strength when you forget. You deserve a circle that sees you, hears you, values you, not one that erases you. Remember this: indifference is loud. If someone chooses not to acknowledge you, that is their choice. But your reaction is your power. When you choose to ignore them back, not in bitterness but in strength, you reclaim that power. You are saying, I see myself even if you don't. I validate myself even if you won't. I am enough without your recognition. That is self-mastery. That is emotional resilience. Some people ignore you because they are threatened by you. Some because they cannot handle your energy, your light, your strength. Some because they are too wrapped up in themselves. And some because they never deserved your attention to begin with. Do not waste time analyzing the reason. The why is irrelevant. What matters is the boundary you set. Ignoring those who ignore you is an act of self-protection. You are preserving your energy for those who actually value it. And let's be honest, when you try to chase people who ignore you, do they respect you more? No, they respect you less. Attention begged for is attention that carries no weight. Respect demanded never equals respect earned. But when you pull back, when you stop giving your time and focus to people who withhold theirs, something shifts. Suddenly you are no longer the one seeking. You are the one choosing. That shift in energy is powerful. Think of all the energy you waste trying to decode silence, trying to interpret why someone didn't text back, why they didn't acknowledge you, why they act as if you don't exist. That energy could be invested in yourself, in your growth, in your vision. The truth is, the moment you stop needing their attention, you rise above them. You step into a higher frequency, where their silence cannot reach you. You are not here to convince anyone to see you. You are here to live fully, to rise boldly, to shine unapologetically. The world does not reward those who beg to be noticed. The world rewards those who keep moving forward, who build regardless of applause, who love themselves enough to walk away from anything that undermines their worth. Let me remind you, every single person who ignores you is teaching you something. They are showing you who they are, what they value, where you stand in their life. That information is a gift. Stop trying to rewrite it. Stop trying to change the story. Accept it and act accordingly. If someone chooses to erase you, let them. That's not your loss. It's theirs. You cannot lose what was never truly meant for you. Every time you rise above being ignored, you strengthen your emotional armor. You train yourself to detach your worth from external validation. And in that detachment lies unshakable confidence. Because then, you are no longer chasing. You are attracting. You are no longer waiting for permission. You are granting it to yourself. Do not underestimate how powerful this is. When you master the art of ignoring those who ignore you, you become untouchable. You no longer crumble at rejection. You no longer shrink under indifference. You move with a calm certainty that says, I know who I am. I know what I bring. And I will not hand that over to anyone who fails to recognize it. And here's something else. Sometimes the people who ignore you will notice when you finally stop trying. They may even come back, curious why your energy is no longer chasing theirs. But by then, you'll be too busy living, too busy building, too busy loving yourself to care. That is the real victory. So the next time someone ignores you, do not fight for their attention. Do not lower yourself to their level. Do not give them the satisfaction of knowing their silence controls you. Stand tall, breathe deep, walk forward, and remember, the loudest response you can ever give to being ignored is to keep shining so brightly that their blindness becomes irrelevant. And when you keep shining, something remarkable happens. You begin to attract people, opportunities, and experiences that are aligned with your worth. Those who once ignored you will find themselves eclipsed by the abundance now flowing into your life. But you won't even notice, because your eyes will be fixed on your path, not on their absence. That's the power of redirecting your energy. It creates momentum. It takes you from being overlooked to being unstoppable. Think about the sun. The sun doesn't beg anyone to notice it. It doesn't chase planets. It doesn't plead with stars. It simply shines. And in shining, everything around it is pulled into orbit. That's the kind of presence you build when you choose to stop seeking attention from those who ignore you. Your glow becomes magnetic. Not because you asked for it, but because you refuse to dim yourself. When you internalize this truth, you stop confusing indifference with rejection. You stop interpreting silence as a measure of your worth. Silence only reveals the limitations of the other person, not the limitations of you. If someone cannot see your value, that doesn't mean it isn't there. It means they lack the vision to perceive it. Do not punish yourself for someone else's blindness. Do not abandon yourself because someone else walked away. The world is filled with people who will see you, who will hear you, who will celebrate you. But you cannot meet them if you are still sitting in the shadows, waiting for someone who has already decided to look past you. You cannot step into your future if you are still chained to the silence of your past. That's why ignoring those who ignore you is not just about dignity, it's about direction. It frees your hands so you can reach for what is truly yours. There will always be moments where it hurts. You are human. You crave connection, acknowledgement, love. But strength is not about pretending it doesn't hurt. Strength is about refusing to let that hurt dictate your actions. It's about saying, yes, I feel this pain. Yes, I see their silence. But no, I will not bow to it. I will not be reduced by it. That decision is what transforms pain into power. Consider this. Every person who has ever created something extraordinary faced indifference. Every leader, every innovator, every dreamer had people who ignored them, dismissed them, doubted them. If they had stopped to beg for recognition, if they had lingered in the shadows of those who refused to see them, we would not know their names today. They understood a truth you must also embrace. You don't need everyone to see you. You only need to see yourself. And here's the irony. When you finally stop seeking attention, when you stop chasing, and instead anchor yourself in your own power, the world begins to notice. Because confidence is louder than words. Self-respect is more radiant than approval. And focus is more magnetic than pleading. The very people who once ignored you may suddenly turn their heads. But by then, you will understand their attention was never the prize. The prize was always the person you became when you no longer needed it. Let's talk about focus for a moment. When you give attention to those who ignore you, you dilute your energy. You spread yourself thin, wasting precious mental and emotional strength on people who offer nothing in return. But when you redirect that focus inward, toward your growth, your goals, your vision, you amplify your power. Focused energy is unstoppable. It's the difference between a scattered flame and a laser beam. One flickers aimlessly, the other cuts through steel. Ignoring those who ignore you is about harnessing that focus. It's about reclaiming your time, your thoughts, your emotional bandwidth. Think of all the things you could achieve if you stopped replaying unanswered texts in your mind. If you stopped dissecting conversations where someone's silence spoke louder than words. If you stopped lowering your vibration to match the indifference of others. That energy could fuel a dream, build a business, deepen a passion, strengthen your body, sharpen your mind. Every moment you give back to yourself is an investment that multiplies. And let's not forget, the people who ignore you are often the very ones who cannot handle your light. Some will overlook you because your presence makes them confront their own insecurities. Others will distance themselves because your growth reminds them of the work they have avoided. Their silence is not always rejection. It is often reflection. It mirrors back the spaces they have left unattended in themselves. That is not your burden to carry. That is not your battle to fight. You are not here to shrink for the comfort of others. You are not here to silence yourself so they can avoid facing their own truth. You are here to rise, to expand, to embody everything you were meant to be. And if that threatens someone enough that they choose to ignore you, let them. Their silence is confirmation that you are growing beyond the limits they set. There is a lesson in everything. Being ignored teaches you where not to place your energy. It teaches you discernment. It teaches you patience. It teaches you the art of detachment, the discipline of walking away without bitterness, the courage to stand alone. And in that space of standing alone, you discover your own strength. You realize that you are not fragile glass that shatters at indifference. You are a diamond, unbreakable, unshaken, shining whether admired or not. And here's the truth, the more you honor yourself, the less you even notice who ignores you. You'll be too busy living, too busy loving, too busy creating. Their absence will no longer feel like a wound. It will feel like clarity. You'll thank them silently for revealing where not to waste your light. And then you'll move on, carrying your fire into spaces where it can actually burn. When you ignore those who ignore you, you teach the world how to treat you. You set a standard. You declare, I will not chase what diminishes me. I will not beg for what should flow freely. I will not barter my worth for scraps of attention. That kind of strength commands respect. Even if they never give it to you, you will give it to yourself. And that is more than enough. So let your silence speak louder than their silence. Let your focus roar louder than their indifference. Let your growth outshine their neglect. Because at the end of the day, it was never about them. It was always about you, your energy, your choices, your life. And once you truly understand that, no one's ignorance will ever hold power over you again. And once you reach that point, you begin to understand that the most profound freedom is not found in being acknowledged, but in no longer needing acknowledgement. You stand rooted in yourself, unshaken, unbothered, untethered to the fleeting approval of others. That kind of freedom is rare, but it is the foundation of true strength. It is the moment you look in the mirror and realize you no longer crave validation because you've already validated yourself. Think about the energy you once wasted waiting for people to recognize you. The long nights replaying scenarios, the mental loops of wondering why they didn't respond, the heaviness in your chest when their silence felt like rejection. All of that was weight you carried unnecessarily. When you let it go, when you choose to ignore those who ignore you, you lighten your load. And in that lightness, you discover how much faster you can move, how much further you can go. There's a clarity that emerges when you stop seeking acknowledgement from those who have none to give. It's like fog lifting from your path. Suddenly, you see the road ahead with sharper eyes. You notice new opportunities, new people, new doors that were always there, but hidden behind the haze of your obsession with being seen by the wrong ones. Ignoring those who ignore you sharpens your vision. It realigns you with what matters. And let's be honest, when someone ignores you, it often has less to do with you and more to do with them. Maybe they lack the emotional maturity to communicate. Maybe they are too wrapped up in themselves. Maybe they are intimidated by your energy. Or maybe they simply don't care. Whatever the reason, it is not your responsibility to diagnose it. Your responsibility is only to decide how you will respond. And the strongest response is always to redirect your focus inward, toward your own growth. Because here's what happens when you stop chasing those who ignore you. You begin to chase your purpose instead. You take that same determination, that same fire, that same persistence you once used to gain their attention, and you pour it into building yourself. Into mastering your craft, elevating your mindset, nurturing your spirit. That is where transformation begins. That is where power multiplies. Imagine what your life would look like if every ounce of energy you once wasted on people who overlooked you was invested in your vision. Imagine the business you could build, the skills you could develop, the strength you could gain, the peace you could cultivate. The very energy that once left you drained could, instead, make you unstoppable. That's the shift that occurs when you finally say, I choose me. And choosing yourself does not mean arrogance, it means respect. It means acknowledging that you are worthy of the same effort, the same energy, the same love you once poured into others. It means refusing to abandon yourself just because someone else abandoned you. It means planting both feet firmly on the ground and declaring, I will not shrink, I will not beg, I will not wait, I will rise. The truth is, people notice when you carry yourself with that kind of certainty. They feel it. They sense the shift in your energy. And ironically, some of those who once ignored you may try to return. They may suddenly remember your worth, not because they discovered something new about you, but because you discovered something new about yourself. But by then, you'll be too anchored in your own power to need their recognition. Their presence will no longer feel like a prize. It will feel like a choice. And you will have the power to decide if you even want it. But the most important part of all this is not how others react to your strength. It is how you feel when you live it. You begin to walk differently. You begin to speak differently. You carry yourself with an energy that says, I am whole, I am worthy, I am enough. And when you live from that place, the world opens in ways it never could when you were begging to be noticed. You see, when you stop fighting for attention, you start attracting respect. Respect doesn't come from chasing. Respect comes from standing firm, from knowing who you are, from embodying your worth so fully that people cannot help but take notice. And even if they don't, it doesn't matter, because you already have the only respect that truly counts, your own. There's also something deeply healing about ignoring those who ignore you. It teaches you how to detach without bitterness, how to walk away without resentment, how to release without regret. It shows you that you don't need closure from them, because closure comes from you. You decide when a chapter ends. You decide when to turn the page. Their silence does not control your story. You do. And let's remember, being ignored can be a gift. Yes, a gift. Because it reveals truth. It shows you who values you and who doesn't. It filters out the noise. It teaches you where not to invest your heart. And every time someone ignores you, they give you a chance to practice strength, to deepen your resilience, to sharpen your focus. They are unknowingly contributing to your growth. So instead of seeing their silence as a wound, start seeing it as a teacher. Let it remind you of the power you hold when you stop needing what they withhold. Let it remind you that your worth is not up for debate. Let it remind you that you are enough, even in the absence of applause. Because here is the ultimate truth. The more you rise into your power, the less you will even register who ignores you. Their absence will no longer echo in your mind. Their silence will no longer sting in your heart. You'll be too consumed with building, with thriving, with shining. You'll realize that life is too rich, too vast, too full of opportunity to waste a single drop of energy on those who refuse to see you. And when that moment comes, when you look around and see how far you've come because you stopped chasing and started choosing yourself, you'll understand something profound. Ignoring those who ignore you was never about them. It was always about you. About reclaiming your time. About protecting your energy. About honoring your worth. About stepping into the life that was waiting for you all along. And stepping into that life means you no longer live in reaction to others. You no longer measure your steps by who claps and who stays silent. You no longer adjust your path to fit the comfort zones of those who refuse to see you. You begin to walk with purpose, not permission. You begin to create without waiting for applause. You begin to exist in a way that is rooted, grounded, and unstoppable. That is the essence of self-empowerment. When you stop worrying about who ignores you, you give yourself permission to live louder, bolder, freer. You stop filtering your words for fear they won't be acknowledged. You stop shrinking your dreams for fear they won't be supported. You stop censoring your light for fear it will blind those who can't handle it. And in that release, your life expands. You realize you don't need a spotlight to shine. You are the light. Think about how much energy people waste trying to be seen. Social media posts crafted just to grab attention. Conversations rehearsed just to impress. Silence broken just to remind someone you exist. All of it stems from the same root, the craving to be noticed. But when you reach the point where you can ignore those who ignore you, that craving dissolves. You no longer post to be validated, you share to express. You no longer speak to prove, you speak to connect. You no longer act to be noticed, you act because it aligns with who you are. That shift is liberation, and with liberation comes clarity. You begin to see that not everyone is meant to walk with you. Not everyone has the capacity to honor your value, and that's okay. You were not put here to be everyone's priority. You were put here to fulfill your purpose. Those who are aligned with that purpose will recognize you naturally. You won't have to beg for their presence, because they will meet you where you are rising. Ignoring those who ignore you is also an act of self-trust. It says, I trust myself enough to keep moving forward without your validation. I trust myself enough to know my worth, even if you don't reflect it back to me. I trust myself enough to believe that I will attract the right people, the right opportunities, the right love, in time. Trusting yourself in this way is a deeper kind of faith. It's faith in your own resilience, your own vision, your own becoming. And once you live from that place, your energy changes. You stop sending out signals of desperation. You stop vibrating at the frequency of lack. Instead, you radiate certainty. You radiate confidence. You radiate abundance. And people are drawn to that. They feel it in your presence, in your words, in your silence. Even when you say nothing, your energy says everything. I am whole. I am strong. I am enough. The truth is, some of the most powerful responses are silent. Not responding to a message, not chasing after someone, not demanding to be seen. That silence speaks volumes. It tells the world that you refuse to lower yourself. It tells the world that your energy is precious. It tells the world that your worth is not a negotiation. And the right people, the ones who respect and value you, will hear that message clearly. But don't confuse ignoring those who ignore you with bitterness or pride. It's not about closing your heart. It's about opening it in the right direction. It's about protecting your spirit from those who cannot handle it. It's about ensuring that your energy is invested where it can flourish, not where it is starved. That's not cruelty. It's wisdom. That's not arrogance. It's alignment. Think of it this way: your life is a garden. Every thought, every action, every connection is a seed. Some people are fertile soil, ready to nurture what you plant. Others are barren ground, incapable of giving anything back. If you keep scattering seeds on barren ground, you will end up empty-handed, drained, discouraged. But when you choose to plant only where the soil is rich, your life flourishes. Ignoring those who ignore you is about recognizing barren ground and refusing to waste your seeds there. And when your garden begins to bloom, something beautiful happens. You stop craving what once ignored you. The flowers in your life, the growth, the peace, the joy, the opportunities, become louder than any silence ever was. You begin to thank the people who overlooked you, because in doing so they redirected you toward more fertile ground. What once felt like rejection becomes redirection. What once felt like abandonment becomes alignment. The more you practice this, the more natural it becomes. At first, it takes effort to resist the urge to chase. It takes discipline to stay silent when you want to be acknowledged. It takes strength to walk away when your heart craves attention. But with time, ignoring those who ignore you becomes second nature. Not because you are cold, but because you are clear. Not because you don't care, but because you care about yourself enough to protect your peace. And peace is priceless. When you live in peace with yourself, no amount of external silence can disturb you. When you are aligned with your own worth, no amount of indifference can shake you. You begin to embody a kind of quiet power, the kind that doesn't need to shout to be felt. The kind that doesn't need validation to be real. The kind that simply is. That is the essence of living untethered from those who ignore you. You move differently. You love differently. You create differently. You no longer live as a shadow of someone else's recognition. You live as the full expression of who you are. And the beauty is, the right people will see it. The right people will feel it. The right people will not ignore it. And when they do, you won't have to fight for their presence. They will stand with you willingly, because they belong in your orbit. But even then, you'll understand something deeper. Whether they stand with you or not, you are still enough. Whether they acknowledge you or not, you are still whole. Whether they see you or not, you still shine. Because your worth was never up for debate. It was always yours, unshaken, untouchable, undeniable. And once you truly claim it, no one's silence will ever be able to take it away.